Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Amy, for those of you who are new. I hope you decide to stick around. Let me just start by saying that I feel like actual poop today. I don't know what's wrong with me. I have the biggest headache. I've taken painkillers. It's not helping. I had a big old cup of coffee. It's not helping. What more can a girl do? It's been a long week, and I think maybe this is just my brain's way of protesting said long week. But I'm gonna power through. I'm gonna make this video and we're gonna have a darn good time, because today I'm going to be answering a question that I get asked pretty frequently, which is how I afford to travel so much. So part of this video is going to be me explaining my own personal situation, my setup here, how I personally in my life go about traveling here, there and everywhere. But I also want it to be relevant to you, or else it's kind of a pointless video. So I'm going to give tips along the way that you can transfer into your own life and traveling plans. If you want to see more travel type videos and you haven't already subscribed, then you should, because I make those kinds of things. So yeah, but let's get into it. I have extensive, albeit fairly disorganized notes that I will be reading from. So if you see me glancing down frequently throughout this video, that is why. And yeah, let's start talking about travel, shall we? So for those of you who might be watching this video who are completely new to this channel, shout out. I'm just gonna give a very brief overview of my personal travel situation so you've got a little bit of context. So I live in the Middle East. I live in Bahrain right now. Prior to this, I lived in Kuwait, and I've been living in this part of the world for a little over 2 years now. But I've been traveling for a long time. I love travel, it's my passion. I'm guessing if you're watching this video, then you kind of love to travel too, so you get it. The first big trip that I went on, I was probably 17, maybe 18 years old, and I went out to South Africa. That was my big defining, I'm going without my parents to the other side of the world moment. And that's when I really caught the travel bug. I'm really lucky. I've got to travel all over the world. There are definitely people who are far more well-traveled than I am, but I think I'm doing pretty well. I'm happy with the traveling that I've done. When I was living in Kuwait, I was traveling literally every single month. From October until May, I went on vacation every single month, and then for June and July of that year, I was traveling just constantly around Southeast Asia and then a little bit of Europe too. I'm not traveling as much now just because I don't feel the need to. I always have so much going on here in Bahrain that I don't feel like I want to take a vacation, which sounds strange. Everyone wants to take a vacation, but I do still travel pretty frequently, but I do still get in my fair share of traveling even now. And I feel like the really important thing I want to stress in this video is I do not make a lot of money, and obviously I live comfortably. I make enough that I can put aside the money to travel, but my salary is not huge by any means. And the reason I bring that up is because I feel like a lot of people watching this video probably feel like, well, on my average-ish salary, can I realistically afford to travel the world? And the answer is yes, and I can say that from experience. So it's very easy, or it would be very easy if I was just a rolling in dough, to be like, hey, anyone can travel the world, because if money's no object, then yeah, it is easy to travel the world. But I'm going to be explaining today how I do it in a way that is affordable on, you know, a not so extravagant salary. So we're coming from the same place is what I'm saying. So the most important thing I do to enable me to travel so frequently is to manage my money effectively and to budget for travel. And let me tell you that that is something that did not come naturally to me. It's only over the last few years that I've really taught myself how to manage my money and how to not just throw it all away on pointless things. It was a whole learning process, but I finally feel like I've really got a handle on managing my money now, and I wonder if it's something that you guys would want me to make a video on, because when I say that I had no money skills, I mean like zero. So maybe that's something I could do in the new year if you're interested in that, like learning how to manage your money effectively, how to budget, how to just stop buying crap that you don't need. If you want me to do that, let me know. But what I do right now is I take my paycheck after rent, and caveat to this, I am quite lucky because in the Middle East, typically your employer will give you like an extra little bit of money on top of your salary for rent. So it all kind of comes to me as a salary into my bank account, but they kind of like include a little extra in there to help you pay for your rent. So what I do is, after I've taken out that money for rent, whatever is left of my salary, I will split. So I put a quarter of it for like daily spending and just my general day-to-day budget. A quarter of it goes into my travel fund, and then half goes into long-term savings, because you gotta have savings, because who knows what's gonna happen. Gotta be prepared for life. So every single month, even if I have no trips planned, I will be putting a set aside of money into a separate bank account. I like to keep it away from my other money so that it's there in a place of its own should I need it. And so some months I will draw on that money, obviously if I'm going on a trip, and it might go a few months where it's just accumulating, which is great for when I'm gonna plan a bigger trip that's gonna be more expensive. And I just think that having that money set aside in a specific place and ready to go anytime I might need it is the best way for me personally. The other really important and quite dramatic thing I did to enable me to travel more was to reposition myself in the world. So as I already said, I live in the Middle East now, and the reason for that is partly because, I mean, I love travel, so even just living in a different country is kind of like traveling, kind of on a mini vacation, even though I still have to like go to work and do laundry and pay bills and stuff. It still feels kind of like a vacation. And also partly because from here, it's easy for me to visit Southeast Asia. I went to Sri Lanka. I mean, Africa is even not that far from where I am right now, and those places aren't so easily accessible from the UK. Obviously not everyone is going to want to pick up and relocate to the other side of the world, and that's completely understandable, but just thinking about what are the places that are closest and most accessible to where you are right now, or even can you group your travels together. So for instance, if you're living in the UK and you decide to travel to Thailand, could you maybe extend that trip by another week or a couple of weeks to get in a few more countries in that region? Because hopping between countries that are close together is comparatively inexpensive once you've already paid for the long haul flight to that area of the world. Speaking of flights, you probably all already do this anyway, but if you are not, you should be booking your flights on Skyscanner or some kind of comparison website that will find the cheapest flights for you. Another tip when you're researching flights is to make sure that you are browsing on incognito mode, because I don't know if it's a conspiracy theory or if it's real life. I feel like it's real. Maybe I'm paranoid. Who knows? But a lot of people say that if you go in and you look at flights for a certain date and then you come back a few days later and look for those same flights, that the website will have, you know, used those cookies that everyone's always talking about to register that you are interested in those flights. You really want them. You're here a second time, so they will put the price up. Another note on flights is that I always keep my dates as flexible as possible. So a really cool feature on Skyscanner is that you can go in and you can search for the whole month and find which days are the cheapest days to fly on. Typically, it's a Wednesday. Wednesdays are super cheap to fly on, but you can go in and you can play around and check like, well, will it be cheaper if I fly this date or maybe the next week? And the more flexible you can be with those dates, the more chance you have of saving some money. The next thing I do when I am traveling, once I've booked my flights, is to book my accommodation, because you need somewhere to sleep when you're traveling. And I always do this through booking.com, unless I'm staying in hostels, in which case sometimes I will look on Hostel World, but booking.com has hostels on there too, and I typically find booking.com to be the cheapest place to book accommodation, so that's why I do that. If you guys have watched my travel vlogs, then you have probably worked out a common theme in the places that I've stayed, and that is that I've stayed in a lot of sketchy places. Not sketchy as in that they are dangerous or they're in a bad part of town where I need to be concerned for my safety, because I always want to take safety super seriously when I'm traveling. I want to be in like a good area, in a place that has high ratings for basic things like cleanliness and security. But yeah, they're just basic. So there was that place we went in Sri Lanka that didn't have any warm water. There was the hotel I stayed in Venice. No, it was in Florence, that didn't have its own bathroom. I mean, luxuries I don't need, you know what I mean? My feeling is, if I am going somewhere to explore and see the sights and soak up the culture, I'm really not going to be spending a whole bunch of time in my hotel room. So it doesn't matter to me, as long as it's safe, as long as it has a bed, as long as it's not filthy, as long as there are no cockroaches, because that's where I draw the line. Then it's fine. And kind of on that same note, I've stayed in many a hostel, and a lot of people get really weirded out by the idea of hostels, maybe since that movie Hostel came out. But seriously, I've stayed in some hostels that are nicer than hotels, and if you're traveling with a group of people, then sometimes they have rooms for just like 4 people, in which case, if there are 3 or 4 of you, just book all the beds in that room and boom, it's suddenly a private room. The next thing I do to keep my trips as budget friendly as possible is to research the place that I'm going ahead of time and figure out all the things that there are to do there that would be of interest to me. And then I'll go into different people's blog posts who have been to those places and get some recommendations on the best way to see those attractions or those things to do. Sometimes it is worth forking out money for a tour, and sometimes it's not. So getting someone's opinion based on their own experience is really useful. So I am fully prepared to splurge on certain activities or tours if I feel like it's going to be worth it. Some things you can do for free, some things you can investigate on your own. Other things I feel like I'm willing to pay the money for, and we're all different, we all enjoy different things, so it's about what's going to be worth the money for you. Kind of similar to that is the way that I eat my meals when I'm traveling. The whole sit-down restaurant experience is not super important all the time. There are some vacations that I go on and I'm like all about the food. Greece is one of those places. Give me a sit-down 3-course meal 3 times a day. That's all I want. But other times when I'm like sightseeing and doing city breaks, I'm not there for the food, and it's nice to try the local cuisine. It's nice every once in a while for me to sit down and like have a really good meal, but also it's not super high on my agenda. So I'm quite happy to grab something on the go, right? Like a sandwich from the corner shop, or if I see a food cart, maybe grab like whatever it is that they're selling. And that way I'm not taking up a huge portion of my budget with food. The worst thing you can do money-wise is to eat right at the heart of a major tourist area, because they always hike up the prices and the food generally isn't that great as when you go to the little like back alley places that only the locals know about. So a good idea is to ask someone who lives there, like, where's a good place to eat? And the final thing I'm really mindful of when I'm traveling to make sure that I can afford to do it is to think about the way that I'm spending the money that I have. Currency conversions, they can be complicated, and there are all these different exchange rates, buyback, money guarantee, all these different things going on. I don't know, I find it very confusing, and typically I don't like to travel with that much cash anyway. So what I've started doing is using my travel credit card, and it's not officially a travel credit card, it's not marketed as that, but it has a really excellent exchange rate. And so I can pull out money from the ATM anytime I get to a country, or I can put the hotel on my card, anything like that. And I don't know, I just find it easier and more cost efficient than buying currency ahead of time before I go somewhere new. The card I have is, I have no idea, let me grab it so I can find out. Okay, so I have the Barclays card Platinum, and like I said, it has a really good exchange rate. If you live in the UK, you can go onto moneysavingexpert.com and he has a whole list of the best like travel credit cards. But the important thing to remember about using a credit card to pay for your travel is that if you can't pay it off in full at the end of the month when your bill comes in, then it very quickly becomes the least cost-effective way of traveling because you have to pay interest on top. So what I do is I have a standing order from my travel account with all my travel funds. So at the end of every month when my credit card bill comes in, they will just automatically take all of the money out to pay that bill in full. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is how I can personally afford to travel so often. It's all just, did I say often with a T? Why did I do that? I've never done that before in my life. All of those things make travel so much more affordable and accessible for me, and hopefully these tips can work for you too, because travel is just so awesome. So I hope you guys found this video helpful and informative. I tried to cram it full of as much information as I could, so hopefully you were able to take away something that will be helpful. Let's just keep saying the word helpful. That's cool. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. Press the subscribe button if you haven't already. For those of you who are already subscribed, thank you guys so much. You are my oddballs. You are my people. You are my BFFs of the internet world. I love you and thank you. But until next time, thanks so much for watching. I love you all so much, and I will see y'all soon. Bye.